Hello.
What's up?
This is AirGo.
It is indeed.
I am Kiss.
I'm Damon.
And what we do here is reshape culture for the more liberatory and creative. We're so excited to be hopping back into the studio, doing this thing that we've been doing really as like a practice and a ritual for our whole adult lives at this point, Dame. We're in the 10-year anniversary past window here of hopping on microphones and talking to Chicagoans and people from all over this land about what they're doing to try to make the world more free. And so as we get into this new year of doing this work, we want to take a little time. It's been a minute since we were on mic together.
Let's check in.
And check in with each other. This is not brand new. We have checked in the past. Let's make that very clear. But it's been a minute. So, Dame, I'll start with you. How's the world treating you? How are you treating the world?
I think the world is treating me well. I think it's important to name that, and I feel like we've come to this a lot of the recognition of how the world treats others makes you then have to reflect on your privileges or your comforts, right? And it's not like I'm balling out of control. It is not like everything is sweet, but relative to what's going on, I am fortunate, and I don't take that for granted. I think it's important to my mental health and sense of self. And which is a funny thing because sometimes that does the opposite of if I have survivor's guilt, I should be doing more.
Right.
And I think I've let go of a lot of that. And
You're not woe is me, just whoa.
Yeah, just whoa.
Woe is us. Yeah. Me is okay.
As the poet Black Rob said, whoa. That's how we describe everything.
The great philosopher.
And so, I'm in the woe of it all. I'm doing all right. I'm fed, I'm loved, I am functional in a way that I'm grateful for. And how I'm treating the world, I'm treating the world like an uncle that is assigned to watch the kids that are somewhat old enough to watch themselves. Kids 8 to 14 are in the basement. So it's I don't have to watch them for their survival.
I'm mostly here in case of emergency or if anyone has any questions.
Or if something needs to be purchased or ordered, you know what I'm saying? Or somebody rings the doorbell, we need an adult here. But I'm not putting the puzzles together.
I don't got to come up with the activities.
And so I'm there. I'll do the little TikTok dance with you. I'll get to the app you don't know how to use. But I'm kind of letting the world govern itself a little bit. But I'm not detached. I do have the responsibility to watch it. I do have the responsibility to check in, to be careful, and to be loving. But it's not all on me. That I'm letting the babies grow up a little bit. That's how the world's treating me.
I love that.
The world. How about you? How's the world treating you, and how are you treating the world?
Which uncle am I? Great question. I would say the world's treating me with a little bit of unique pause and space and time in a way that one I haven't had in the past, but also would not have let fly in the past. I would have filled the space. And I know I feel like when we do this, I often say some version of this, but just trying to savor having this little window in my life right now, these 6 weeks that feel like I actually have a little room to chill. And that's not typical for our workflow. It's not typical for how I feel in my life. So I've been trying to do that. You said something when we were talking about our work recently that really stuck with me. You're we may not be rich, we may not be famous, but we are free.
Yeah.
And that I think was very helpful in my brain of just I may have to or choose to make choices that limit my ability and my autonomy in the future. And I worked really, really hard, and we've worked really hard to be able to have that autonomy. And so let me actually try to enjoy it for a little bit.
Yeah, for a quick little second.
Yeah, and then I'll get back to it. Right. But this is what this was for. Yeah. And so, it feels good to be stepping into this next set of conversations from that place.
Shout out Rocío.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I have this deep instinct, this sense within myself of how do I make big things in the world about you? Right? I saw this thing. It's oh, Daniel will be interested in this. And, the world's always spinning, but there's been some interesting things going on, interesting things happening in the political sphere. And my boy got in the New York Times. Looking good. Was that like a little radiator by you in that shot?
It was a window.
Window radiator little situation.
So I think I love that you jumped to the byline,
Uh-huh.
like the headlines of it, but I think we got to give a little context.
Yeah. So in the biggest city in the continental United States, including Hawaii and Alaska.
Alaska doesn't have the metropolis that's put it over the top. Yeah.
But New York City.
But I respect your devotion to the continent. Yes.
New York City has a new mayor elect.
Uh-huh.
And maybe by the time people are here and seeing this, might be.
No, he'll be in. Yeah.
Okay. So,
January 1st.
So New York City has a new mayor. And yeah. It's your boy.
New mayor, old friend.
Yeah. So most importantly, AirGo guest.
Oh, yeah. 2-time AirGo guest.
Yeah. But second most important, one of your best friends
yes.
from your formative years. And so there's the politics of it. There's the democratic socialism of it. There's the Trump of it. There's the xenophobia of it. And go to 100 other podcasts to focus on that. We'll get to some of those things.
But we have the exclusive
But
here.
it's about you right now.
Oh, my goodness.
Zohran Mamdani is one of your best friends.
Yes.
And what does it feel like to see his rise from lunch table homie, shenanigans partner, to aspiring young political organizer, to now being, honestly...
You skipped rapper in the middle.
I did forget the bio of the bars. But honestly, one of the most significant political figures, not just right now, but like of the century, of the last decade. And so, yeah, what's coming up for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's just the like surrealness of it all. There's the like weird feeling of being, and I felt this through the campaign actually a little more than I feel it right now, but of like being so intimately tied but so far away, of like I wasn't out there canvassing, I wasn't working on the campaign, like I'm just kind of watching my friend become important in real time, like, and significant. And yeah, it's like it's a very surreal feeling, you know. During the campaign, I felt this in a different way of like deep dread and fear for him. Like that was the strongest impulse. Yeah. And I didn't want to like make it about me and that in public, but we talked a lot about this of like, yes, I wanted my buddy to be the mayor, but mostly I wanted him to be okay. And
do you feel comfortable now that we're in this place of talking of what fears were most heightened?
Yeah, I mean, physical threats is not like a question that's off the... I mean, he was receiving... And he talked about this. I'm not putting anything out, but like he was receiving death threats and had security in a different way. And, you know, not just from like randos. Like the president was like, we should deport him and throw him in prison if he is what we say he is. And like that's a thing that happens to people. Yeah. There's like... I feel like one of the most poignant political thrusts of this first year of Trump too is like, I'm going to pretty effectively target my political enemies. And I don't even just mean the Democrat, like the people who have any semblance. I'm not just going to discard you like we did the first time. I'm going to like make your life difficult and impossible. And that's like on his own team. And then he's, you know, sitting at this concentration camp in Florida when they open it being like, basically, I read it as I'm going to put your buddy in prison or throw him out of the country. And that's a very weird feeling and a very real fear. And I'm just an anxious person. So there's that. But then
what is the worst case scenario in this moment?
And then what if the president repeated the worst case scenario? But then there's just like the deep pride and in some ways like awe of watching someone harness the like raw materials that I know him.
It's like I knew you was cool.
Yeah.
But
and
damn.
I knew you were cool and I knew you were charming. It wasn't always a given that you would be this principled and this charismatic. Like the charm was always there, but there's just like this projection of security in himself that makes all this possible. If it felt like he was trying harder to get you to like him as opposed to like his policies, none of this I think works. There's like it doesn't feel like a pick me. It feels like a pick what I stand for. Yeah. And so I'm just like proud of that, of like he got to a point where he could harness these incredible, you know, like we maybe all had friends in high school who like wanted everyone to like them. And there's a lot of ways up that mountain. And the easiest way is to like try to give people what they want, whether that's good or bad. And to have figured out how to try to give people what they need with that skill, I think is really like moving and beautiful. And just, you know, in the little ways we've been in communication. Like yesterday he posted, he was like cleaning out a drawer and found all these old ticket stubs. And he like, you know, it's kind of like some behind the scenes, I'm being still a person while being elected, and he posted them. And like one of them is this Lupe Fiasco concert that we went to.
I've heard a lot about this concert.
I mean, this is an impressive concert. Yeah. This was there are almost no artists who this is 2009. So at 17, I knew as many of the words to, and there were a lot of words. And this was like prime, I'm going to say all the words. And then there were some other shenanigans involved in that concert that I don't want to besmirch the good mayor's name. But, you know, just to feel like
coming of age,
this person's still here. Yeah. It's still, there's this continuity. You know, it wasn't just like someone I knew in high school. We've continued to be in relationship, you know, between him coming on the show and when I've been in New York seeing each other. So like to still feel part of each other's lives. And that wasn't always a given in our friendship. Like we very easily could have been people who were friends in high school and then faded. And some of that has to do with like some of the challenges of our relationship. Like I always was very drawn to him because of that charisma. We spent a lot of time together. We like traveled through the city together in a way that other friends of ours weren't doing, meaning like we went to Brooklyn in 2009. It was very exciting. But there were also challenging parts to it, and parts where sometimes I felt like a accessory or the butt of a joke to get someone else to laugh in a way that wasn't just him. It was consistent with other parts of my friend group. And we graduated and we were still kind of in touch, but it was, you know, what it was. And then I guess it was either freshman or sophomore year of college. I was at Grinnell where we both went, and he was. That's neither here nor there. It's there actually.
It is very over there.
And he was dating someone at the time whose family was actually from Iowa. There's this town called Fairfield, Iowa, that was basically like turned into the home base for the Maharishi movement, which is like a vaguely cult-esque mindfulness.
Need to dust up on my
new
Maharishi
agey thing. And yeah, Fairfield, Iowa is like a small Iowa town that also has like 13 vegetarian restaurants and is like the hub for this in the U.S. And so her family lived there. And he came to visit and he hit me up and was like, hey, I'm actually going to be in your state. Why don't you let's say hi. So I drove there. You know
your state is ass when people hit you up if they're anywhere in the state. Not true. In your town. I'm in your sorry, state. Iowa. No. I have trauma.
And a valid critique. I think it's safe to say. Like I was willing to drive 2 hours because my friend was there. And he just like, we sat down, we were talking, and completely unprompted, didn't need to do this at all. Just like acknowledged that sometimes he had been mean to me and then apologized and was like, this is something that has weighed on me and I just wanted to say I'm sorry. And like, how often does that happen? That someone, especially like a 19-year-old, like apologizes unprompted. It's like we talk a lot in these abolitionist conversations about how we have so few cultural incentives to take accountability. Proactively and like he just did that and it changed everything.
And in person, I feel like the version of that I hear
it's like, I get the random phone call,
random Facebook message from the bully that you're never gonna see, and it's more about them than it is about you, and like we're not in a relationship. But for someone, that being an entry point to continue connection, I think speaks to character. It
wasn't a like, I mean, there was probably some trying to clear the conscience, but really it was the like, I see how this is maybe limiting our at least it was for me.
He was accountable in your relationship is what you're saying.
And so that is the shift from like, oh, this is a person who people like, to like someone who was stepping into a type of integrity that feels rare. And like without that, I think watching him ascend would have felt very, very different. It would have been like, oh, I don't know if this will all be used for good. And it's like, no, there was a growth there from the person I knew into this person who can maybe actually lead in a different way. So
that's interesting. In addition to the integrity piece you're on right now, I hear you in this conversation, but when we've talked about it, like this distinction between charm and charisma is really interesting to me. And like this notion I'm hearing from you is like charm is affect and like charisma comes from like a deeper internal truth or like a self-assuredness. Is how I'm understanding. And I think that's interesting for people that aren't trying to be the most prominent politician in
Totally.
the world right now.
Yeah.
And like, particularly in spaces of change where this idea of charisma historically is something now over the last few years we've like become very skeptical of or see almost as like a problem. But I think he shows the value of it.
Yeah, I've always been skeptical of that skepticism because that's what moves people.
Yeah.
And so the way I see the difference, and I'm curious how you think about it, but like
I think about it by becoming less charismatic. That's what I
which
do. Doesn't work.
helping or hurting, Dane. But the way I think about it is like charm is I want to make that person like me. I'm going to do what I can to make that person like me. Charisma is I am moving through the world in a way that people are drawn to me. And it doesn't mean that it's all just like osmosis. Like some of that can be intentional choices, but the difference between I want to do what will make people like me and I move in a way that people are drawn to and like. And I think that's just a thing as a species we want to be around. Like you want someone who can like, I once heard someone describe it as like charisma is you want to say yes before you've even heard the question. Like how do you get 250,000 people to go knock doors across New York City? And that's not like house doors. This is apartment building doors.
These are different doors.
These are like I'm waiting to get buzzed into the building. I gotta go up
stairs.
The staircase hasn't been cleaned since the Eisenhower administration. Fiorello LaGuardia was the last mayor to clean that staircase.
These are different doors.
These are different doors. You don't even know about these New York doors. That's like a powerful thing. And I think discounting that, I understand where it comes from. The ways that with gender dynamics can like uplift certain people. It's just such a valuable skill to mobilize people in a way. But when it's not just the charm thing, it's less driven by that insecurity of like, once I get it, then what are we doing with it? Like, what is it in service of,
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I want people to reflect on that outside of, prominent folks on what does it mean in our day-to-day life, this divide between charm and charisma you're laying out for us. Thank you for that framework. I think that's insightful. All right. One more Zohran thing, and we could talk other stuff. I wanted to start with more the human dynamic, more like the homie grow up dynamic. The hearing some of those stories like is interesting to me. But let's talk.
I've turned down so many interviews, which has been my
talk about that.
That's been my charisma flex. Like
talk about that. I've seen you do it. I saw you get the call.
This is my biggest flex on on you, but in front of you. We were driving from a gig in Minneapolis, and a reporter from the New York Times called me on the phone. And I was like, I'm going to politely decline. And then push comes to shove. A month later, Zohran asked me to do it. So I ended up talking to the reporter, and it was this thing that was completely inconsequential in the trajectory of life.
Oh, no. It was consequential.
So
people saw those curls.
the curls are consequential. Let's get it straight. But yeah, the article was not like important, but to say
the journalist is watching
like,
this and feels like my work is important.
I mean, they put in the time. There was a question. They're like, so I know you were 17. Like, what did you guys talk about? I'm like, 1, no idea. 2, even if I knew, I don't think I should tell you what we talked about. I don't think that's a good look for anybody. But yeah, so it's fun to talk about it a little bit. This is the purpose of having your own space. It's like I don't have to worry as much. But anyway, you were saying you wanted to start with some of the human side.
But I'm interested in that. It also, like this, there was the fear you had that was not just imagined, but like distance from you. But then there was also like the real protection of like you are one of the 12 to 50 people that have access and knowledge to what he was intimately like as a young person. And like what it means to be in support, but like also be very protective of that legacy of that story. Because anybody's humanity can be picked at, and like they were trying to look at old interviews you did about running for high school office and promising free pizza, like what that means for the world. That right? Am I missing?
In addition to being a 2-time AirGo guest, he also was a encompassed Bronx Science Alumni Stories guest, the illustrious podcast that nobody heard. But that kept me fed for the first 2 years of adult life. And so, we I sat in his parents' house with him, and we did this interview in like 2015 with no thought that it would ever be newsworthy. And then like it's getting pulled out. The New York Post, Politico is quoting, the New Yorker is quoting from this. So, and on one level, it was a question of like, there might be things in here that actually aren't a great look. He's not asking me to take it down. Should I take it down? Would that be ultimately worse because then it's this thing that's like, oh, they
Or
took.
they hide it, yeah.
And so because no ask came, I just kind of took it through this whole thing of like, I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to offer to do whatever I can that would be helpful. Not going to do anything that I'm not asked to do.
Yeah.
But it was hard. It was hard to like feel, again, deeply connected and distant at the same time. And I could have like gone to New York and do it, but I didn't. Yeah. And so here I am.
Yeah. So before we transition out of Zohran talk, just talk about the politics a little bit. I'm excited about what his ascent makes possible. I think it's expanding the imagination. I think it's also to your point of like how robust the actual organizing was. Is a really good example that we really haven't seen since, the 2008 Obama moment, that I think a lot of us have a lot of wounded injury around, or at least I do. I'll speak for myself. And I'm not gonna take us down the Obama talk right now.
I actually have a little Obama talk.
You want to do Obama talk?
So
all right, well, fuck it. I'm knocking things over.
The table.
Let's go.
Not the usual Obama talk.
All right.
I did a thing that I haven't done in a long time, which is I listened to an interview with him.
Okay.
So this is me just being exactly who you'd think I would be. I'm not a regular Mark Maron podcast listener to, but he did his last episode, and for it he had Obama back on.
All right.
So I was like, all right, I'm intrigued. And they were talking about actually some of this, like the Mobilize, and he was like, we always get credit for being the first social media, and he was like, first social media campaign. And he was like, well, one, it wasn't because I knew anything about it. I just was too broke to hire people in their 30s. So I just had people in their 20s working, which I thought was funny. But he was saying the one that actually was helpful isn't MySpace, Facebook. It was Meetup, which still exists. It's like, I've actually used it for like recreational softball. It's like a thing that's geared to get people to actually go to a physical place together. You're like signing up to be in place. And he was like, that was the thing. It wasn't having more people like things on Facebook and messages circulate. It was that the 12 people in Boise, Idaho who wanted to work on my campaign, the first thing that it drove them to do was get in a physical room together. And so that, I think, regardless of the rest of the Obama talk, is an important, and I think about that in relationship to the canvassing of like, especially, to some degree this is true, but some degree it's just the affect of like, it was these 20-something, many of them gentrifier New Yorkers who were like the driving force, those progressive gentrifiers, basically. No, that's not fully true, but
it ain't fully wrong.
But to get them to actually leave the fucking house and put their phones down and go walk around and talk to people changes so much. And then to have positive relationships with people who live in their neighborhoods that they otherwise wouldn't talk. It's like you needed a candidate to get white people in their 20s to talk to their neighbors. It's very funny to me. But there's some power in that. Like that feels like an impact in the same way of just like, especially now, how do you get people out of the house and not just into the streets, but like in small groups together? That's like the thing that feels powerful
with people. And so that power, right, like it shines bright. It is clear that something dynamic is happening. But I think from the Obama legacy and from just like, I think it comes from people wanting to be rigorous and not wanting to get duped. And I think it's some people wanting just to have the hot take of a lot of folks who may watch our type of stuff or that demographic. It was like a rush to be who can be skeptical, the most skeptical of them first. I'm like, oh, y'all think he's going to save us. He's not going to save, or here he goes selling out basically already. And so for you, as somebody who knows him and cares about him, but also I think like is helping to steward or move in the world of particularly discussion about liberatory politics. How do you hold the, he's making the centrist turn, or he's going to sell us out to the Democrats, or he's not going to save us, or y'all fell for it again thing that, when you see him next to how people are talking about AOC now or talk about some of the things Bernie's done, how does that show up for you?
I think a couple things. One, if standing next to AOC and Bernie means you've taken a centrist turn, no, you've taken a turn toward the center, but they are not centrist. Right. So that is an unreasonable position to put, an unreasonable place on the spectrum to put them in.
Let me interject for that, because that might have been a misuse of the words from me. Because right, they're not centrist, but I think the critique of them is they are establishment collaborators that actually quell some of the like resistant that they corral insurgent energy and function in a way that extinguishes it or doesn't actually propel it into real action, a la AOC coming out and defending Jeffries.
Sure. So when we had Jared Ball on, we had this whole conversation about sanctioned versus unsanctioned narratives, right? Of like, there is within our mainstream political system a range of what is an acceptable sanctioned position to take. And you don't have to all take the same position, but it has to be kind of within the boundaries of that. And we could talk about the harm of that. I also think it's just good to be realistic about there are guardrails on what it means to serve in public office on participation within that. And that doesn't mean that you can't. The AOC thing, I actually don't feel that. I know a little bit about the Jeffries stuff, and there's some other political machinations of like, well, what would that then do? What are the chances of actually winning? What would that do for the New York DSA chapter that just had this huge win to then step back into that with a much lower chance of winning? Anyway, there's a whole machination there. But to the Bernie thing, that I feel much more like part of the impact is shifting where the guardrails of the sanctioned narratives are. And that's part of that's the value that I see Bernie having, among other like more tangible things, like trying to get hearing aids to cost less. All of a sudden, what a politician, a senator, an elected official can say is shifted because of his steadfastness. The danger that I have felt potentially being there for Zohran is also the thing that has given him the clarity of his messaging of like, I am not gonna vary from, it's not just the principles, but it's also like the deliverables that I'm promising of my campaign, right? You know, he talks about like being at the rally and he just has to say the first word and the second, you know, fast and free, and then the crowd yells buses and free childcare and freeze the rent. Like that's great campaigning, and that makes it easier to project a range of politic onto him that I think has also happened with AOC, that I think is part of what the disappointment or that skepticism or that disillusionment is not actually a thing they said and then didn't do. It was because you assumed, based on a very concrete thing they promised, that was connected to a full ideology, that then when they didn't always move in alignment with that, it was like, oh, we've been betrayed. It's like, no, what I said is I'm going to try to make the buses free. Like these very tangible things. And I think we saw versions of that with Brandon here of like, he made these very concrete things around reopening mental health clinics and then worked to reopen some mental health clinics. And then people would say like, well, we haven't revamped the social safety net structures. He didn't say that the first thing he was going to do was he said, what I'm going to do is reopen. And there is an assumed politic behind that. But in terms of like the expectations that people have, I kind of feel like for the people who are willing to stand on their word, like these few politicians, just take them at their word. And it doesn't mean you can't push them, but then don't be disappointed if they're not doing a thing that they didn't say they were going to do. Because you want to have someone who would do that.
Right. Yeah. The him and Brandon parallels show up rich for me. And like, to no surprise, I want to talk about like how I'm holding the contradictions of it. And I don't want to get too big, but like,
we're just mayor's friends. This is our new name of our podcast, is We Know the Mayor.
Yeah, dapping up the mayor. And you know, I think we can like hone in on, particularly like in abolitionist spaces, I think this tendency comes up, this skepticism that I have like respect for what's at the heart of it. But what I see it in that is actually a missed opportunity to take more responsibility as movement. And so these are two figures that organized and that their campaigns were in coalition with and supported by movement containers, right? Like people who see themselves as abolitionists, people who maybe see themselves leaning in socialist trajectories, people who want progressive taxation and have been fighting for these things in different auspices for a long time. And both Brandon and Zohran engaged those spaces, worked in those spaces, were in coalition with those spaces. And I think the imagination or the hope, even if we're not saying it, is we believe in revolution, just to like mostly in the spaces we're talking about. And there's an unchecked fantasy of a top-down revolution, right? This unchecked of someone's going to go into the hall of power and lead us closer to our ideals. And it's actually the inverse, right? It is the movement work of both of those spaces that made, again, that window open a little bit more so someone can talk about redistribution or the public good as a focus. But we have to do more work to make abolition technically possible in the short term.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've done a lot of work to move people towards that bend or to understand policing as harmful or want more redistribution, but like the actual technical functions of what it would mean to move away from a police department in a major city is not something that can be led from a city hall.
Right.
Like we would have to transform what people want, what people are capable and able and willing to do,
and what the conditions are.
Yeah,
I mean, that's to the like worried of selling out. Like, you know, there's been some pushback on like keeping the police commissioner, who is not good. I'm not a fan. It's not just a political. I'm not saying politics in the like news cycle sense of it, but in terms of like, you have to remember that these are the structures that people are stepping into with no experience running.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean you can't make a different decision in there. I probably would advocate for making a different decision there.
Right.
But I don't know, man.
Yeah, and
they have like the police have like a budget bigger than the GDP of like most of the countries in the world.
Right.
This person is entrenched. You're picking a fight that you know will actually be about substantive things down the future, and now it would be this like flashpoint. It would build up the resistance to you and your policies in city council. Like,
and to be clear, right? Like I maybe will say we are not wavering on the belief that policing should be divested from and defunded. But
I'm also not the mayor of a major American city trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, and trying to keep that city functioning.
Right.
And I think a thing that is another tension is, you know, many of us are critical in resistance, see ourselves in opposition to the state and to government powers historically up until basically these two dudes. And so that means we don't actually have a bench of people who are skilled to run these institutions. Like, we're not abolishing all of government, you know? Like, how do you run the Department of Health? How do you run the water reclamation? Like, there are these negotiations that are happening, and then contracts and laws and bylaws and ordinances in place that like we don't even know how to go through all of the city code or all of the, you know, how these entities are constituted.
And one of the most detrimental things that could happen is to have a mayor aligned with our quote unquote side who does a terrible job at the administrative work of being a mayor. Like, if city services don't function, you know, we've seen Chicago is rife with these of like, you know, a snowstorm and it's a different administration, you know?
You know, this is not the same level, but Alderwoman Rossana Rodriguez is huge on this of like, my office has to be the best at constituent response and constituent service because I'm out here fighting for these bigger things and saying these things that come with more risk and more pushback. If we slip at all on somebody's garbage or someone's pothole or somebody's construction request.
It's funny to slip on someone's garbage, like a banana peel situation.
You know, like, then it's going to threaten the political assignment that I see myself here for. And so, I'm not trying to, you know, like, now we're in our 30s and say like, oh, kids, don't expect big things. Like, very deeply committed to the politics. But for me, again, I don't have the assumption that a mayor is going to lead us to abolition. Actually, it is the inverse. And we need to create the opportunity for them to have constituents that want what we say we're demanding. And so, that's my thought on that.
Yeah, I've heard Rossana talk about that too. And I think like that really was super pronounced, obviously, over the summer here as her role ran the gamut from making sure people's garbage is getting picked up on time to like, you know, being one of the main people in Chicago, both advocating in City Hall, but then also just in the streets trying to keep her people and her constituents safe. You know, I in very small ways experienced that of like showing up when the rapid response call went out around ICE, and it's her and Graciela and then 10 other community members literally like running down the street trying to figure out what they can do to try to keep people safe. And like, it's not a responsibility that I imagine either of them imagined. I mean, I don't think any of us imagine that, but it also wasn't something that felt out of character, right? That kind of like fierceness is kind of what I've always sensed from her, is like a little bit of an maybe she expected that someday she might have to do that, right? That comes from her own experience. But yeah, it's been it's been wild here this year, and escalation in a way that I think shook a lot of us to places that we didn't expect to be, emotionally and physically. And so because we haven't recorded in a minute, we haven't had a chance to really talk about what this 3+ months of ICE and Border Patrol presence in Chicago looked like and meant, at least from our perspectives. And so, I'm curious for you what, it's obviously not a debrief or a retrospective because there's still presence here. There's still things happening, but that clown with the terrible fade has left town, and the frequency of this violence has shifted. So what are you feeling? What are you making sense of? What are the emotions for you in this?
Yeah, I could come from it from a few different lenses. I'll start with the organizing that I was connected to or a part of, because I want to shout that out first, but then there's just like the internal feelings. So one this year was the launch of a new container called the Chicago Black Voters Project, and the intention of that, which was really launched just a few short months before this federal takeover season, was how do we, similar to what we talked about with Zohran, how do we knock the doors and how do we be in conversation with as many people, or basically every registered voter, but also people who are not yet voters, who are not registered voters, in the 17 majority black wards in Chicago, which is such a wide, sprawling, ambitious effort. And it's about pushing people closer to support and investment in the public good, into progressive taxation. I think it's a way to create a groundswell of pressure that will soon be realized by our city's Black Caucus, which I think has not been in step as a body with black people, with Black Chicago, has been more conservative than it should be, and too often is at the behest of the corporate power that runs the city, and I think is destroying our infrastructure. And so that container existed and was noble and was wonderful, and was like a growth out of this decade movement trajectory, where it's kind of a cool irony of like, you go out and tell people about the police killing us, or our schools and mental health facilities being closed down, and sometimes as a gaslight, folks will say, well, go vote. And it's like, well, we are voting. We have been organizing people to vote, and or people also are making a reasonable choice to not participate because they don't feel included. But as folks who are making these demands, we've been participating and organizing people towards participation this whole time. So what does it mean to flip the conversation of, we are in the, similar to kind of what we were just talking about around people looking at elected officials, we are in the political arena formally to then make more space for the types of policies that we want. So that container existed, and a wonderful group of folks. It's mostly spearheaded by Asha Ransby Sporn, but I want to shout out Itohan and Ariana and Delane and a lot of wonderful organizers, Marion, who have been a part of Treatment Not Trauma, Bring Chicago Home, Johnson's campaign, we're connected to defund work, who have now this experience and know how to move through a campaign. So that's the context. As this takeover was coming down, a response was built in coalition, really, with Chicago Black Voters Project and EAT, Equity and Transformation, shout out Rich Wallace and their whole crew, which has really done, I think, over these last 3 to 5 years, like the most dynamic organizing within community, right? Like they have turned out and built and led so many folks to become leaders that, like, it's very clear when a call comes, there's dozens of EAT shirts, there's, people from all over the ladder of what it means to be a Black Chicagoan. And so came together and built this No Trump, No Troops coalition, which really got into this rapid response mode of, one, how do we organize aligned elected officials to have a platform to resist this, and how do we have as much know your rights trainings as we can. And so the Chicago Black Voters Project was already doing these community barbecues all over the South and West Side, and so they really became a place for people to not just talk about politics abstractly, but in the every week as a new edict or ridiculous quote or threat was being launched from the Oval Office, folks were able to gather in a monthly, bi-weekly space and, one, learn what to do when ICE is in community, understand what's going on, understand what's happening with the big bullshit bill, or as you like to say, is it law now? Did it get its
It
shrine?
is a law. It is a BBL, which means it's
We're for the
a little disproportionate, a little fake.
For the big beautiful bill to the big beautiful law,
Yeah.
even though it's not beautiful.
Big bulbous law.
Yeah. It's inorganic. We would say. And so these spaces came together, and really also then became a way to bridge and explore some of the overlap and some of the divide with Latine communities that have been at the forefront for 15 years about how we respond to deportation, and like how do we have resources in every language? How do we understand that it is not just Central and South American immigrants that are at threat of ICE? What does it look like for East and West African languages to be used for some of these resources? Mm-hmm. What does it look like to understand what happens to Haitian migrants in this city and in this country? And so a really beautiful and big, robust container was built that I think has led into fighting in this budget season, and really coincided also with our mayor taking a much bolder stance.
Totally.
And so a lot of the work and the canvassing and the research of the Chicago Black Voters Project helped inform many of the proposals that are in our upcoming in-season, as y'all see, already decided upon budget proposal. So that's the organizing. Just as a human, right, like something that always tears at me is when mundanity and horror coexist. Mm-hmm. And so for me, as someone who is in coalition and receives information of what's happening, and I'm seeing the images and seeing folks respond and seeing people get hurt and seeing how robust but also clandestine this terrorism of kidnapping people has been, attacking people in schools, attacking people coming from court hearings, the elotes people, pulling people out of their cars.
Targeting people with work trucks.
Yeah. And so, it has not been a complete divide because a very predominantly black neighborhood, South Shore, had a building that was attacked in the middle of the night. We saw this dynamic's not the right word. We saw this troubling video of a black man on the west side right off 290 get pulled up. But for me in my Bronzeville neighborhood, I have not seen the presence, right? So in the same time of knowing this is happening and being in these trainings and, being on these calls.
And then seeing the videos.
And knowing this happened in my city, but they come and go. So there's not a site to meet at.
It's this weird specter, this haunting,
this looming. And so it's been a real struggle, downtown, north side, northwest side, Pilsen Little Village, I think.
And then southwest side is really what got the worst. Yeah. They got up by Albany Park a bit, and in Logan and in Hermosa, they were pretty heavy. But the predominant Latino areas that were the farthest removed from the political power are Gage Park, Edison Park, Southwest Side,
Brighton Park.
And they've built power out there. There was incredible rapid response work that came, but it's
shout out to BPNC, Brighton Park neighborhood.
It's the folks in the neighborhoods that if you could live in Chicago your whole life and not know the names of those neighborhoods if you lived on the other side of town. The Pilsen and Little Village as the representations of Latinx communities, that's the place where the parades happen. And this is where people in many cases have been pushed to live because of gentrification. Right. And then they knew that there was in some ways fewer political obstacles for them to terrorize people there, which I think about that calculus of where can we get away with the most? Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you didn't interrupt. We're in conversation, buddy. And so, I felt that feeling in going to Stateville Prison a lot this is the oldest physical jail in the country that's designed like this. It's rotting and decaying, and it is so harsh and cruel in its design. But then as you walk down the hallways, I guess it's for the staff, but it may also be for the people that are locked up. There are these Spirit Week quotes, you're walking in a high school hallway. And so just strive for excellence type shit, and so something so mundane as make sure you wash your hands, in this place of terror, really undid me. So to then map that onto a city of things continuing as normal, while the most abnormal horror is happening to our people, happening to young people, happening to elders, families being taken away, literal kidnapping from people in masks. And some is really disorienting. But there was also a pride I had in my city of one saying that this work we had been doing for so long, even if we're not ever at our best or ever as connected as we want to be, when the threat comes, we have built the pathways and relationships to stand up together in a way that other cities are then looking to us.
Right.
And like we're now sharing information and like helping to teach the rest of this country how to resist the fascism in real not like Twitter fascism resistance.
No, like on calls.
Yeah. What happens when the boots are literally on your block.
Yeah. And that's true both for movement folks, but also
just everyday people.
Yeah, just the general like, no, we're not gonna go for this.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that the political power is there, but the just like refusal to
I see injustice. I will not let it stand.
There was no effective manufacturing of consent for this in Chicago. And I'm not saying they were trying to do it. Like I think part of it was to fuck with people who were not personally being affected. Like look at what we can do to you.
Yeah.
But there was no effective counter voice being like, actually this is good in just like the general vibe. That wasn't an argument,
no,
you know?
Sure.
And even among people, you know, this is just anecdotal, but even among people who were not, quote unquote, on our side around deportation and migration, you know, people who were like, oh, I think the criminals should be sent away. But I'm not advocating for children to be, you know, tear gas and thrown in the back of vans and, you know, families to be like, they made it a little easier to
elders to be forced outside at 4 a.m. in their pajamas. And,
Like, again, they didn't do a good job of trying to manufacture that consent if that's what they were trying to do. But it did make me really proud of just like the general, no, we're not going for this. This is not a thing we're falling into. And I felt it happen incrementally, right? Like as people who are paying attention to the news and what's happening, maybe at a degree that's more than most people, like I felt, and again, anxious person, TM,
Let's
like
do it.
I felt the creeping threat of siege. It felt like at a time where it wasn't part of a lot of everyday people's, at least external life. Other people might have been thinking it or feeling it, but like it wasn't being talked to. And I was kind of going like, oh no, like we're not ready for this and it's coming. And then it just felt like 2 weeks later, kind of everyone was like, all right, I'll do something.
Yeah.
Like, you know, from the whistle things to the neighborhood patrols outside of schools. And like, I don't think a lot of this is legible to people who aren't here, but like
plugged in.
There were everyday people every morning standing on the corners by neighborhood schools with whistles, making sure that kids are getting to school safely, because ICE was targeting schools to be able to pick up their parents when the parents were dropping their kids off.
Yeah.
And so instead of just saying, oh no, this is terrible, you know, through some combination of sanctioned and unsanctioned networks, not organizers, some of them are, but most just people just showed up. And because they started targeting people in a lot more parts of the city, including like wealthy white neighborhoods. They were trying to pick up landscapers and nannies. And, you know, you meet us outside of a public school in Lakeview and there's parents there. And that wasn't being naive on their part. Like that was a contested space.
Yeah.
So
I want to emphasize this. Like there has been a formal and informal network of community defense organization that is spread literally across the county, but like especially throughout the whole map
there
of the
are
city.
Dozens of rapid response networks in place, and they were there at the beginning and then have only grown. And
don't want to always bring it back to the big thing, but like let's make the main thing the main thing. This is explicitly a revolutionary moment and development, right? Like to not just respond and say this is bad, to create a new structure that is in response and may not last forever, right? But that is transforming people to a deeper responsibility and is actually going against like the crux of our our government. You know, like the idea is you're supposed to allow government to do its work,
especially militarism,
right?
Armed,
and we can, you know, people are debating the legalities of it, but functionally they have the authority to do this. And so it's not just
they claim the monopoly on that power.
Right. Yeah. It's not just being present for drop off and pickup. It's folks whose work is outside now don't feel comfortable working outside, so we're gonna pick up your groceries for you. We're gonna have plans of how to transfer guardianship, which is a horrible thing to be wrestling with, but planning what it means to build new construction of family in real time, like how we relate to each other is shifted. And so, I was just actually last night, I won't say where, but like was a part of a summit of these community defense networks. And it's just so powerful to see, and like trying to tell them in real time, like, I know you're exhausted. I know you're overwhelmed. I know this is terrible, but there's so many lessons of this work that is happening right now. This frontline work is pushing us towards things we cannot yet imagine. Yeah. The parallel I was asked to speak about is like we abolished and ended cash bail in Illinois, and that's even something else Trump is threatening. But that wasn't like a plan. It became a plan, but that wasn't like the initial goal. It was police are killing people. Police are torturing people and forcing them into false confessions. Cook County now has all of these folks who are in there being held ransom, but it was from organizers responding to a vigil of someone being killed by police where the family then got arrested, where then it was like, oh, well, we have to bail them out. Oh, there's a lot of people that need to be bailed out. Oh, we can create a bond fund. Oh, actually, just having a fund that bails people out is not enough. We need to get rid of this. Yeah. But it was from showing up to someone to be with a family who lost a loved one in crisis, right? Yeah. So, like, we say this all the time. It is the people that show up who then are prepared to show up for crisis. Yeah. And so by showing up right now, thank you to all the people that have been doing this rapid response frontline defense work, because not only is there so many people that we can't count that weren't taken because of it, but you have now transformed what it means to be a Chicagoan, what it means to be an organizer, what it means to be a movement. And that is revolution to me.
And like rose to the occasion so remarkably.
Yeah.
To the heaviest type of community, one of the heaviest types of community care work, like, sitting in these know your rights trainings, sitting in these canvassing training, like at the same time that people are like literally getting notified minute to minute, oh, someone just got picked up, someone just got taken here, this just happened, like, and some of these people are lawyers. Mostly it's just people.
Yeah.
Not just the people who show up in the street, but the coordinate, it's just people who are like, no.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Like, part of the purpose of talking about here is to make more legible all the levels on which that happened, because we, as you said, are already seeing like people turning to us not for answers but for guidance and best practices and horrible.
That's not Damon and Daniel, Chicago.
Yes. Like horrible things have been done to our neighbors.
Yeah, and a trauma is being placed on children specifically.
And people figured out in many ways effectively how to try to challenge and mitigate that harm and make the perpetrators less powerful.
Yeah.
We couldn't stop them every time, but we could reduce their power. And like that, I think, has had a lasting impact. So yeah, I agree. I just kind of joining you in like the love letter to the people who led that work.
I want to shout out educators specifically, teachers all over this city who are already taking on too much, right? Have now become like this buffer, and this fabric of responsive communication, particularly, again, like many of the images are of people who are adults and who are parents being taken away, and what that then means for a household, right? To be a child. And one, even if it doesn't get to the height, like the threat of your caregiver being vulnerable.
I can't work. I don't feel safe leaving the house. I can't pick you up. I can't drop you off. How are we going to make ends meet?
And for many, the reality of your parent or your caregiver being taken from you and like can't even really articulate what that does. But teachers have been in many ways at the front line of maneuvering, responding, and building this network. And so just want to shout them out again. The Chicago teachers have been really amazing for a good couple decades now.
Rosie said this thing at one point of, you mentioned the grocery deliveries, of this weird parallel to early COVID days.
Yeah.
The supermarket having a handwritten sign that says like, need delivery, call this number, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And
during this time, SNAP was fucked up for.
And like, rapid response becoming a nomenclature we know the same way like mutual aid became a nomenclature. The like in real time, out of necessity, popular political education into action that happened then to try to meet the material needs of people across our city felt in some ways like, the disaster was different and the power analysis of the disaster is different. But it was a good reminder of like, oh, actually, there are muscles we can continue to strengthen here, because we do the same thing each time in a good way. Yeah. We adapt, we figure out, we do what we can to try to keep people safe. And like, as you said, we don't know how many people this work kept from being harmed. And that's wonderful to not have to know that different, that those people are still here, you know? Yeah. So we'll continue to talk about this because also this story like isn't over. But it felt like, you know, something that the two of us spent a lot of time in the last 4 months talking about. And I hope for people listening and watching, like in the ways that you were touched by this, because I feel like kind of we all were, especially people who are choosing to engage with this, like give yourself the time to think, write, talk about what residue this left on you, because the same way we were talking about shifting the this shifted the guardrails of like what we imagine our streets looking like, our communities looking like, the kinds of things that are a thing we could endure. And so as we like retract a little from that, keep those muscles loose, you know, give them some space to practice. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yep. And recognizing again that it's not over, but we have survived something, right? And so one, like, I don't think we're in a place of like memorial physically, but how do you be part of the collective memory of this time? And for folks who want to like go deeper in this conversation, kind of when things were first hitting a high point, we had a wonderful conversation with Antonio from the
from OCAD and Autonomous Tenants Union.
So go check that out if you want to, like, if you haven't
already. And the
already.
Albany Park Defense Network. That's a great entry point. And if you are interested in plugging into this work in the city, we'll share some resources in the show notes. And so that's been part of our lived reality, but kind of to that cognitive dissonance you were talking about, like that isn't all we've been doing. And I think there's one thing that we don't give enough space to on this show. Which is we don't give space to Damon giving buckets.
Oh yeah.
So I just want to carve a little. I want to bring into the room. I want to place in the center. What do the people need to know about the buckets you are giving on the court these days?
There are buckets galore. I'm going to make this about me before I do. I'm going to do the big picture thing. So one.
What is the big picture thing about you giving buckets?
Well, one, the buckets are pretty
big picture.
You ginormous
posterized.
Yeah. But one, like, again, we're people that talk, we're people that workshop, we're people that blah, blah, blah. And more, I find myself like advocating for people, especially people who take on other things in the world, to have a physical practice. Have a creative practice, have a physical practice. Sometimes those can be the same thing. So just want to, like, for the old heads, we could have this conversation and be gendered, but I think older folk, I'm not actually mean old, but like, you've become an adult. We're now approaching mid-30s, right? I think you need to like be in practice, find your little league, find your little squash team or racquetball or what's it now? Pickleball.
I will not advocate for pickleball on this show.
But you got your softball.
This will not stay.
And I've been hooping more. I've gotten back in shape. And I just also want to shout out the W Club. AirGo alum Elton Ora, his homeboy Nemo, and Rico the artist has come in and like really held this like weekly space for, you know, it's pretty much mostly black men, mostly folks who are like connected to the artist community, and like every Saturday it's like church for me.
So you're giving creative buckets.
Giving creative buckets, giving communal buckets.
Everybody gets buckets.
Everybody.
That's very funny.
But with that being said, the mid-range pull-up has been really strong for a good 10 months.
All right.
You know, there's been an attack, a squeezing out, almost like a gentrification of the point guard. Now it's everybody's a ball handler. Everybody can initiate. There's Giannis and Jokic out here. Everybody also is the score first point guard. Everybody's Kyrie. And just like, who's going to set us up? Who's going to know where this screen needs to come from? Who's going to know when we need a post shot? Who can also do all of the pull-up things? And so just like...
But who, as I like to say, is going to alley your oop?
Exactly. It's got to get thrown up there. And so in addition to just like, you can catch it, right? Like, don't give me that step. Don't lean off. But I could also get past you, so you got to negotiate something with yourself. But on the right day, the pull-up has been really, really clean. I think we may be able to actually insert courtesy of W Club here.
We'll put a
some
little
highlights, some little in the corner. Shout out to Troi at the Repair team. He's gonna right here.
I had this bad chick uptown, she was had me messed up in the head. I mean, bought the chick diamonds and pearls. I mean, should have seen the ice shining on the wrist. Now money ain't the problem. See my dough is like, pull out my banknote on y'all dudes like, lost the free strip from 2/10 like. Money wanna beat my blueprints, I'm like, had to hit the brake on y'all brothers like.
Some of these buckets that have been happening, because you might not believe me, because everyone says they get buckets.
Yeah, no, it's true.
But once I get out there, there's the occasional off day, but I've had a few runs of like first game to last game, I'm on the court. And that happens through W's.
Beautiful.
So more than the W's, more than the buckets, it's been getting big W's. Shout out to the W Club.
Are you keeping your own record?
No, I should.
I'm a big proponent of.
They be filming some of it, so I can maybe go back and
You don't have to keep your shot stats, though you can if you want. I'm a big proponent of treating your recreational sports statistics as if they will be needed to be recorded in the archives someday.
This does not sound hypothetical. I believe you played close to 50
I played
games.
49 softball games this year. I have my batting average, I have my on-base percentage, I have my spray chart.
So these are
where the hits.
So these are different leagues. Are you compiling this as the one?
So I have.
Is this an ABA NBA situation?
I do have my overall stats, but then I can separate between 12 and 16 inch.
Okay.
And again, for no one, but for me
and me,
absolutely. And Troi, I think I'm gonna ask you. Let's put the little stats in there. Well, this is our light flex. And so all of that for the love of the game, I know it is really at the core for you, but there is a recurring event that some of this is in training for.
Right.
And so we have the rare opportunity to do a pregame for the Morgan Park Academy alumni game, which is coming up around the corner.
So for those who don't know, Morgan Park Academy is
for those who don't know, most people don't know about the alumni game.
Is one of the oldest high schools in Illinois. It's I think one of the first basketball games happened with Morgan Park Academy involved. And it's also one of the worst basketball schools in the history of the state, in the history of the country. But it had a 4-year run of above average results. Won its only regional championship and was not horrible in sectionals, but did not advance past regionals. And that was with your boy. And
correlation, causation. What do you say?
Explicit causation. So 4-year starter, point guard, like we talked about, became the all-time leading scorer for the school. That still stands, 2,012 points. Not a lot of 2,000-point scorers in Illinois IHSA history. And so every year, the day after Christmas, there's this alumni game. And in my mid-20s, it would be kind of crowded in there. But as Facebook has fallen off, and maybe as the world has fallen off, it's become a ragtag event that I still take very seriously. And in both ways, right? If I do well, it means a lot to me. And then if I do poorly, it casts a shadow on my entire year, my sense of self.
This is your Groundhog Day.
Yeah. So there was a year where I came off COVID. There was a year where I broke my foot. There was a year where I was sick another way. There was a year I pulled a hamstring. I got in shape, and then the week before I overdid it and then pulled a hamstring. And so I was out there just kind of limping. And so, yeah.
But you played through.
I did play on the injured hamstring. That's how much it means. And so now I have the W Club.
I was assuming, I missed it. No.
Now I have the W Club. It lessens the height of what this means, because it's my one shot, my one bite at the apple. But yeah, there's this desire to reassert place and dominance. There was one or two 20-somethings that were in better shape than me that was uh-oh.
This is unacceptable.
This is not acceptable.
Yeah.
So I did my plyometrics.
There you go.
I ran my sprints, did my compound lifts for a good 2 years straight, and now I'm back where I need to be. Can jump and hang off the rim.
There you go.
And again, y'all will probably see this after it happens, but 30 is the floor for me.
In terms of points.
In terms of points of it being successful. I think I had 21 to 25 last year, and I was not at all satisfied with that. It was unimpressive.
I heard people were really disappointed
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
There was a lot of dejected faces.
Yeah. So I'm going to give these 19 to 40-year-olds 30. I'm calling my shot.
You heard it here first, folks.
Mm-hmm.
I think your goal should be to give the same amount of points as your age.
Oh, I like that.
So each year your expectation gets higher.
Ooh. That's it. That's the goal now.
There you go.
That's my alumni high is 42. Coming right out of like my second year out of school, I gave him real buckets. And
so 8 years from now, you get a pass.
Yeah.
You don't have to put up 42 points. 42. That's fair.
That's already been hit.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can check it off the list.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good
9. Don't 34 me. I'm 33.
Fair enough.
When does softball kick back up?
I mean, it depends. I'm not playing in the Dome this year. For those who know me, everyone who knows me knows I have spent cold January, winter Tuesday nights going to the Rosemont Dome to play 14-inch softball. But
you're letting that one go.
I think those days are behind me. Now it's time to get in softball shape, which is not that much.
And to make the silly, not serious, but to shout out our movement media or community media homie Jacoby Cochran of CityCast. He
joined
did
me on the so one of the leagues I play on is a 16-inch softball league that's all media and journalism. And so I play
Who's the villain? Is it WGN?
I'm not putting that on wax.
All right.
But I play on the freelancers team, which is great because even if we lose,
bad news bears.
All the people with salaries keep getting layoffs, so we're still here. So the better players once they get fired, they're off the team, but we stay. But
he did some reporting on like the softball in Chicago.
And he joined my team this year. It was great to have him, and there's a great CityCast episode about 16-inch. Rosie looked at me recently and was like, "What are you gonna do, oh winner?" Great question. I've been dusting the fan, like the things that you don't do when you have time.
Until it's time for softball.
Very true. All right. Well, I'm glad that we got that a record. We will do a report back on your alumni game.
For sure.
That seems pivotal.
So what's happened is the ref got a little vendetta with me of like, he sees I'm going hard where other people are taking it recreationally. And so he's kind of like leaving me out there to wilt a little bit. He lets me get beat up. So I'll let you know how the free throw line looks.
Do you want to air his name out?
I don't know his name. He's just the old ref.
You know who
you know who he is. All right.
It's been a pleasure.
Feel great.
Yeah, no, it's a good. I feel like we covered all of the most important things, namely the mid-range jumper.
Yeah. 2 of the 3 biggest cities in America and the pull-up.
Absolutely. So continue to pull up with us this year. Yeah. Pull up on us.
You could pull up with somebody. Pull up with us, but pull up on us though.
So continue to pull up with us this year on AirGo. We're going to be bringing you great conversations with people reshaping culture for the more liberatory and creative all year. It's great to be back in the studio with you, Damon.
Yep, as always. I'm glad to be here. Much love to the people.
Peace.